Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Option Expiration Friday. How's everyone doing? Good morning, Bull Strike Cheetah. Good morning, Sterling. Good morning, Patrick. Happy Friday to you. Thank you for putting in the economic releases, Sterling, and news. Good morning, Jacob. What else? It's a light morning. Good morning, John. Thank you, Pavneet. How are you doing? Yesterday was a big work day. So I'm going to more so celebrate something this weekend. Yesterday was just there's too much work. Wife had to work until like 7 p.m. at night, so they're just I got some takeout Mexican food and went to bed. It didn't even cook. It was cheap takeout Mexican food. It was just like get something and then go to bed. So it's going to be this weekend. All right. Good morning, Heinrich. Um, Apple could ramp up iPhone assembly in India up 65% by fall. Wouldn't that be a kicker then if Trump put on higher tariffs for India? Because he's not going to be happy with that one. Did I say good morning, Heinrich? Heinrich, you got two good mornings. Good. Hey, Charles, how are you doing? All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, even on this boring Operation Expiration Friday. Good morning, Harold. So, we had building permits, housing starts coming out, building permits month over month, big drop there. What else we have? We got export import prices. There's just not much to report. Preliminary numbers for May. Already the middle of May, and only the preliminary numbers are coming out. But we have inflation expectations. That's the key thing to watch. You have your long and short term consumer sentiment. Let's see if it bounces back now. So that's about it. But overwhelming today is going to be option expiration. S&P, you bounce back in United Health. Mega caps except Microsoft and Meta are up. So far, though, not a super rockin' morning. Consumers, com services, consumer cyclical, industrials up, basic materials lagging, gold turned back down, bouncing back to the first cross rotation zone area and the breakdown area from the double. Let's see if it follows through with the weekly. So, Fed Watch still has 2 rate cuts priced in for the year. First one being in September. Fear and greed still solidly in greed mode. Schiller PE. I did refresh this one. 36.36. No, I didn't. So, in terms of earnings, nothing. Applied Materials, I forgot what it was. Gap down yesterday. A gap down. If you could put that in there, Sterling, if you can find that one. I looked at it. Now I've forgotten. So, but nothing today. Next week's going to get interesting. We still have some key earnings. I think Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's. So next weekend. I've already skipped a week. Next week will be interesting still. Good morning, Daniel. I saw your comment. Double dip. What do you mean double dip, Heinrich? Clarify, please. Good morning, Anissa. Now, Daniel asked an interesting question where on some platforms the 4-hour time frame is different. Because that, it doesn't matter for the 1 hour. If you're trading percent Bs on a shorter time frame, the 4 hours is only one that can be a variable. Some platforms allow you to set it, others don't. Don't worry about it. If your platform doesn't allow you to set it, what I prefer to go on with a 4-hour window is at least a 4-hour close that happens after the key New York Stock Exchange open, if you can set it. If you can't, it's going to come out in the wash. Because you're going to get some that trigger, some that don't. It's going to be variable because of the up and down. If you can't set it and you have a 4-hour close that's way too far off from the open, you can always then just watch the 1-hour close. All right? But that's the thing. You want some close relative like this. My 4-hour close on this is going to be where the cash open is roughly 22 minutes away. This is 30 minutes after that's why I like it, because it gives the first 30 minutes of trading and then we see how it follows through with the 4-hour close. And can it still miss? Yeah. Can you? It could just might not trigger the percent B buy, and then the market takes off. But that's the way I prefer my 4-hour close for the indices. If you can't, don't worry about it. If you can't set it up, you can always watch for that 1-hour close. I'd recommend not going much below 4 hours for percent B buys, but you can always watch for a 1-hour close after the open or a subsequent 1-hour close that closes beyond that if you're going to look for those kind of things. Those are my tips there. Okay? Good morning from El Paso, David. You being in El Paso, not me. I'm in Arizona. Thank you. Down 5% after earnings. It was there we go. Thank you. It was a miss on revenue. Have you noticed that more and more companies are missing on revenue? And that's the one thing you can't fudge. You can fudge EPS. You can't fudge revenue. You can't. So, good morning, Richard. All right. Good question, though, Daniel. Daniel with an excellent question again. You can always do what Daniel did. You can also email me, support at Path Trading Partners, or you can put a question on a video, like in the comments, if you think it's helpful to everybody, and we can address it. So, widening guidance in China risks. There you go. All right, we have OPEX. We're trading against the 59.50 harmonic, 59.48 on a continued rally, 59.99.75, so 6,000, which is also a very key magnet price. Don't know if we'll get there or not, but that's the key magnet area that we're looking at. Now, I'm watching on any pullback. Going to be watching yesterday's low as a key little area. No, we do not have a double here. Yesterday's low, but before that, watching the 4-hour rotation zone. Okay, we have there's a minor level right here. A minor level right about 59.25. So if this turns into a choppier day, that's what I'm watching. I'm actually watching about 59.20 to 59.25 for any pullback. Overall, this is the least favorite trading day of the month for me because of option expiration, because you get some weird you can get weird price actions, and we're still just grinding higher. Now, we should be hitting the top area potentially today for cycles. So next week, I'm really just going to watch to see for a rollover play to how much it pulls back. Also remember, April OPEX was essentially the shifting point. April OPEX was where we really started to shift. We got the little capitulation before that, but we really got a major shift right after April OPEX. So I'm just paying attention. That does not mean we need to have a major shift here, but I'm at least watching for a topping pattern going into next week, or at least a pullback. Your major support now, if you look at zoom in, if we look at the rotation zone, right at the breakout zone, the prior breakout zone. So, again, not for today, but for next week, 58.40, 58.50 is the first level on a more significant pullback. Other than that, today, just if we do keep riding higher and have another day up, 6K. That would check off the 87.5 rule. NASDAQ, 21,680 area. The major support coming back at 20,950 to about 21K. That's the major support level. The minor support, I'm just keeping an eye on the bottom of the rotation zone, which is right around 21,230 to 21,250. This is a little, and no, it's not. Don't even bother. Don't even bother with that. It's not going to work. Dow is the one with the potential double top against the rotation zone. Could be invalidated on a strong rally today, but I will definitely be going in if it's not invalidated next week. We are against a 200 simple. If we continue to break out above Monday's high, 42,765 area. And then the next harmonic is 43,100. On the pullback, just again, I'm looking at for the Dow at 42,365. Then I'm looking at about 42,200 based off this support shelf. Russell, again, very key stuff at 21.24. Above there, 21.39. I'd be shocked if it broke above there. But it's not going to get to that next major target. Still, going into next week, we are in a major rollover zone for the Russell still, between the 50 and 62.5. The VIX coming back down. I mean, we're back in the whole range, we're still not to the very lower bounds, which are around 15. But we're getting down there with cycles at the bottom, very oversold, also setting up potential divergences, which is another reason I'm watching for potential more volatility to step back in, at least for micro spikes. DAX does have a potential double top against the rotation zone, so keeping an eye on that for next week. Would need a close below 23,411. The yields, yesterday pulling back to key support, now just dropping further, but I want to see how this closes and then reacts on Monday. We are cycle still going down. We might have percent beat buy setups. There's nothing I'm looking at today. I'm letting this shake out. That was an outside reversal bar yesterday. There was some weird price action. Market rallying, but it was running like people were running into the nose. I know the PPI came in weak, but this was a pretty strong reaction. And with the snapback in gold. Now, we had a little snapback yesterday and the rollover today. Let me get to gold real quick. So, we had the trigger on the daily for the double, little bounce back to the rotation zone area, and now rotating back down, retest this 50. This 50 is proven to be a key support area. Again, I am watching. This could have easily been entered yesterday. However, on this snapback pullback, I want to see gold trigger on the weekly basis. Otherwise, I'd be looking not to go in with a full position, but a half position, because we are against the weekly rotation zone. But that's what I'm paying attention to there. And I'm also today paying very close attention to this 3172.7 area on a closing basis, because that would not only have triggered the double, but that would close below the 62.5. Then we get two sets of probabilities for lower prices. It does not increase. You can't add the probabilities together. It just means you have two different signals. That does not mean you load up on extra shorts, because they could both technically be wrong. They're still going against the weekly rotation zone, but it does favor a continued pullback in prices, especially if we close also below the 3172.7 level because of the 87.5 rule. So I'm paying very close attention to that. Crude, going into next week, I will be watching for. We're still dropping in the cycles. We come out of overbought conditions. I'm still going to be watching for a potential buy setup next week. There's just not much today. Again, there's not a lot of fantastic signals today besides gold rolling over and a possible still grind higher in the S&P. Yen, going to be the same thing. Watching for next week for a potential percent B buy setup after a key pullback to a support level. Spiders, gap up today. So any rollover play would be a gap fill to yesterday, 590.46. Other than that, the key magnet price is still 596.80. Doubt we'd hit that today. But that's where it sits. Going into next week, we are at cycle tops also, just like the futures. So we'll be watching for at least a short-term top going in early next week. The Qs, same thing. The magnet price here, though, let's see. 523.51. 520.82 is where we're trading right now. Slightly above on any pullback. Yesterday's close, 519.25 is key. Bitcoin still sideways, textbook sideways correction. 8 coming up, no breakout yet. We are getting the cycle bottoms in the Bitcoin. So going to still be watching for a potential breakout higher unless next week we get the bigger pullback in the market. Yeah, your platform's 240 minutes. It's always 240 minutes for 4 hours. Just when does the bar close, bull strike? Hey, Christoph, how are you doing? I've just always used DAX. Just always used DAX. The futures. So that's your answer, Richard. Other than that, Tesla. Still seeing. I'm still watching this 351 area. Also going to be watching to see if this puts in a little micro double top going into next week in Tesla, especially with the gap up today. Going to be keeping an eye on that. Other than that, there's no short setup. It's still just grinding higher. Still grinding higher in Tesla. Other than that, we had the pullback in Meta yesterday, but nothing to really invalidate. Just watching for a pullback to the rotation zone. So it's my advice, and it's a normal thing on Friday, but it's an extra today with options expiration. Don't do anything silly. There is not a lot of fantastic setups. From my perspective, from the indices, it's just trailing any longs. Trailing any longs on this Friday. We are very overbought, but we have the whole option expiration thingy going on today. 59.50 and 59.50 and 6,000 are the key strikes in the S&P. So I'm not going to keep anybody any longer. We'll just reconvene on Monday and see what setups we have starting the beginning of the week. Again, always pay attention. If you're trading short-term intraday, pay attention to the news cycle because every morning something comes out from the administration. With that, I'll talk to everyone next week. Bye for now. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.